Okay, class, so today we're going to just do some brief notes on factoring review. So the first type of factoring we looked at was a GCF. Okay, so for a GCF, we're looking at kind of two things. Number one, that it's not a trinomial. Okay, so it's not a trinomial. If it's not a trinomial, then chances are it could be a GCF. Not saying it is, there's a chance. The other one would be high numbers. So if you have high numbers, good chance is you got to take out a GCF. And not just high numbers, but also high exponents. So those are kind of two things to say, hey, well, look out, take out a GCF. So let's just do two examples. Number one, example A would be something like, say, 16x squared minus 24. So I don't have a trinomial. I only have 1, 2 terms. So then I also have some high numbers, especially if you have high numbers in front of x squared. Okay, so I can divide here by 8, and so my GCF goes up front, and in brackets I have 2x minus 3. And here's my two factors right there. Okay, if I do have a trinomial, like for example, question number B here, let me just make one up. If I have, say, 4x squared minus 10x plus 6, right away you might be thinking, hey, this is just a harder trinomial. I got to get my superproduct. The problem is that you can take out a GCF because these are all even numbers. So that's another thing to watch out for, is all even numbers. Because if you have all even numbers, you can definitely take out a GCF of 2. So it's another kind of clue or indicator that, hey, GCF first. So even though this is a trinomial, I'm going to start by dividing by 2. And then I have 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. And then you would be looking to factor and see if you could do sum or product. And in this case, it would be your superproduct because of the 2. Okay, now I just made this question up. You can't actually do it. So your answer now has 2 factors because there is no superproduct. Okay, superproduct would equal 6, and your sum would equal -5. 6 would be 1 and 6, or 2 and 3, and none of them are going to give you, darn it. Yep, you could. So you could use 2 and 3. However, let's just stop right there. You would then factor it further, and you would then get 3 factors. But I just want to show you GCF, what it looks like. Okay. After our GCF, the other type of factoring we looked at was simple trinomials. So for trinomials, okay, quick one here would be like x squared minus x minus 12. So we do sum product. The product is -12, and sum equals -1. So what numbers multiply to give you -12? 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, 4 and, nope, you don't need to go back again. So you would get a -1 sum if one of them was negative, and what works out here, this works out if that's negative. So then we would get a -1 sum. So my factors are x minus 4 times x plus 3. And I know that one of them must be negative because my product has the negative sign. That's why I know I must have one of them be negative. Harder trinomials then, all right, harder trinomials are when you have a number in front of the x squared. Okay, whoops, can't write today. So harder trinomials look something like this. 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. Okay, and the reason why they're harder trinomials is because there's that. What you should always do is check a GCF first. And you can't find a GCF, so now you're going to go with a harder trinomial. So your superproduct equals 6, that's positive, and your sum equals -5. So what numbers multiply to positive 6? 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that's it. And they'd all have to be negative in order to get a positive product and a negative sum. So those clues tell you they must both be negative. This would give you a -7. This would give you a -5. So that's your factors. Oh, sorry, that's not your factors. That's how the middle term splits apart. You get a 2x squared minus 3x minus 2x plus 3. Remember, these terms could switch positions. It doesn't matter which one's where, you'll still get the exact same answer. Okay? So doing your work then, you're going to take out a GCF for the front. Sometimes it's just going to be a letter, like this case right here. And so you're left with 2x minus 3 when you divide by x. Now we divide by a GCF here. You'll notice that there is a negative sign, and so you got to take out a negative GCF. And we'll take out a -1 because that's the only factor you have. And so then you're going to end up with a positive 2x minus 3. And what's the way to double check? Well, a way to double check you're doing this right is those must be identical. So I'm lucky they are. Now don't cheat. You've got to make sure if these weren't identical, you'd have to make sure your GCF is you probably have the wrong GCF. Okay, but since they're identical, I know my GCF is correct. So now one factor is the x minus 1 part, and the other one is the 2x minus 3 part. That is the exact same if I had the order different, such as 2x minus 3 and x minus 1. Okay, good. The last type that I'd like to go over is the difference of squares. So the difference of squares would be something like x squared minus 16. So factor that one, and I would get square root the very first term. So it's square root, and I get x, and then I get 4 and 4, and I have to have different signs, so plus, minus. Okay, and that is it, difference of squares. We've looked at perfect squares. Perfect squares, just factor them like normal. So for example, x squared plus 6x plus 9. I would factor them normal. So product equals 9, sum equals 6. And so I would get x plus 3 times x plus 3. And so to get full marks, I need to show me, you have to show me that it's a perfect square. So x plus 3 all squared. Okay, so that's a review of all our factoring. To review our multiplication, if we have x times 2x plus 1, you have to multiply in. So this section that we did at the very beginning of it, you'll see some of these quotes in here. You'll have to know how to multiply. Okay, and so you multiply in, doing distribution properties, 2x squared plus x. So that would be example A. Example B, the harder case was when we had x plus 5 times x minus 8. And so you get x squared minus 8x plus 5x minus 40. And so you get x squared minus 3x minus 40. And that'd be your final answer. When you're multiplying these binomials, middle terms always collect. So the harder ones, so a harder one would be like this, x plus 2 times x squared minus 4x plus 5. And so you have to multiply, multiply, and multiply. And you get 3 answers. And then you would take this plus 2, including that sign, multiply, multiply, multiply. You get 2 answers. And then the last step is to do what? Collect like terms. Okay, and some things would collect, not everything, but some would collect. And so then you get a simplified version. Okay, good. So that's just a real kind of brief overview of our units using multiplication distribution laws, and of course then doing our factoring, which is brand new for us. So on your worksheet for today, check the answers. There's some harder ones on there, so you'll definitely need to go over those and let me know if you have any questions.